All right. I think we're live. I need to be adding some topics in here on the screen between us. I don't even have all that done yet.
Well,
Let's
let me
see.
refresh and see if it goes. No, not showing up on my deal either. Normally I get the old Twitter alert. Well, I'm seeing a few people start to get in.
Yeah, I tried to put a notice up. I don't know if I got it up there in time. We're testing software, so you may notice a little bit of lag more than normal. Like we may seem a little jumpy. That's because we're using a testing version of the software because I'm testing this dual format out. If it works, it works. If it crashes, we'll just, come back on live and y'all try to find us. So anyway, we're kind of in test mode tonight. But I did get a couple of
Yeah,
notifications.
it's kind of like this is almost like we're reinventing the wheel a little bit here because it just seems like it's been forever since we've done a show or done shows, but it was just 1 week ago.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe it's this Thursday thing and Snowmageddon 2.0 just has me like in a brain freeze. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've still got 2 inches of ice in parts of my yard, although it's melting, and my driveway still has about an inch of ice on top of it.
Yeah, I noticed that like from Bossier, I think they were saying like three, I don't know, 3 inches, and then further north you get up into Arkansas, it got worse. And south of here, just a little south of here, it was a significant difference even between say like South Shreveport and North Bossier in the quantity of precipitation.
Well, while we're on the subject of ice, let me get on my soapbox for a minute. I don't think we're going to do a countdown and all that tonight anyway. So, folks, if y'all are coming in, I think we've got, a dozen or maybe 20 people watching so far. But anyway, if you're just coming into the show, make sure and tag and like and share and do all that kind of stuff because we're pretty much going to skip the countdown. Probably. Well, we may skip them from here on out. But back to the ice situation. So I got a gripe, Mr. Lowrie, and this may lead into Bossier City in general, but I had to drive to South Shreveport today, and I was on 3132 in Linwood. Instead of coming back 3132, Cross Lake, 220, and coming back that way, I decided to go 3132, get up on 49, come north because I needed to come through that side of Shreveport. I couldn't get on 49 headed north right there because they had the ramp closed at like 10:30 this morning. So I had to, it's just an inconvenience, but I had to drive out of the way to loop around, come back through Bossier, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, my point is, this is not the first, nor will it be the last ice storm that North Louisiana has ever had. I can remember being through at least half a dozen ice storms of this magnitude or worse. I don't understand why our government officials cannot get prepared. It's not like we didn't have plenty of warning. They should have the state and the local government, they should have pre-staged the equipment and been ready to go. Look, I'm not saying this because I don't have any experience in the ice. I lived in northern Arkansas and Missouri, and I've told this story before. I'll keep it brief. When it starts icing or snowing, and it snows a lot more up there than it does down here, and sometimes that turns to ice. But you can count on Missouri, within 2 hours, they have the majority of the roads clear. Done.
Are you trying to bait me? Did you really just bring up Missouri?
It's the dinging of the phone incessantly on this corn.
Well, look, no, yeah, well, that's a self-inflicted wound,
Right.
somewhat.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But look, I'm not as worried as much about the ice as I am the fire. So,
What?
and when the fire,
What fire?
did you not
Now,
know?
no. What
Did
fire? Oh, to the people trying to melt the snow?
Well, no, no, no,
Uh-oh.
no. You got to go down in the notes and go to the first link. Go to the police jury. Did you not
Oh,
know that we were famous across Louisiana? We were unique
I'm
from
not even
everyone
sure
else.
I want to click on this link, but I'll take the bait. Hold on.
During the ice storm, while we had, Lord knows how many inches of ice. I mean,
uh,
there was more hazards than just the ice.
So I'm hoping this shows on the screen again. We're trying out this dual format deal. If our video seems a little jumpy, it's because we're testing the software right now. But I think everybody can see. I did not realize this, Mr. Lowry, until right now. We were in a burn ban during the ice storm.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm just saying, this came across my radar that we were the only parish in the state that, I mean, it's snowmageddon, shelter in place because of the ice and the snow and the precipitation, and we're in a burn ban at the same time.
Wow, I honestly had, but it makes sense. I'll tell you how stupid this is. Now, for all of you government types that are listening, maybe somebody will know. Maybe you know, Mr. Lowry. Okay, I am sitting at Swan Lake Road and Highway 80. You know, over there where the Quick Trip and all that is, and used to be Sue's Country Kitchen right there at that red light
Yeah,
intersection.
yeah, yeah.
There's a road grader. Now, this was Tuesday, so there's plenty of ice still on the road. You know, it was drivable and obviously easy to drive in my truck, but still plenty of ice. There's a road grader headed westbound on Highway 80. He even has a little escort truck behind him, but he didn't have his blade down. And my wife is like, how come they're not clearing the roads? There was still 2 inches of ice on Highway 80. And I said, I bet you it's a parish or city versus state deal. She goes, well, that's a state road. I said, it's Highway 80. She goes, well, why isn't the state out there grading the road? This guy drove for miles with his blade up. So, y'all riddle me this. Let's just say that Shane, our new CAO, whom we're very proud that he's the CAO, let's say that Shane says, all right, boys, you city boys, let's get the road graders out there and the heck with it, state or city road, clear the roads. Now, if they're doing a state road, is like DOTD going to come arrest the city boys that are clearing off the roads? How does that work? I mean, what kind of trouble would they really get in?
Well, I don't know, but what I would say is, well, no, I'm not even going to say that. I mean, I don't know. Great question. I mean, great question. But you know what?
But you
The
understand the
employee,
point.
but the employee probably was like, Lord, I'm not dropping this blade on the city road because if I tear my thing up, back come. They're gonna have my butt. I said, when did you tear it up? Well, I was doing something in Bossier City. Oh no, can't have that.
Well, it's just ridiculous, though. I mean, and look, maybe I'm just pissing and moaning tonight. I don't know, whatever. But it's just stupid. The whole I shared out on my personal feed and all that. The whole I-20 debacle again in Lincoln Parish. Did you see that on the
I
westbound
see.
side?
I seen that, and I we didn't put this in the notes, and we weren't going to talk about it, but I mean, look, I've got some opinions and I've got some thoughts on this deal, and I ultimately saw they had the National Guard out there, so I know a little bit about
Finally,
truck. I know a little bit about trucks. I know a little bit about cold weather. I mean, I spent a couple of years, up in Wyoming and Utah, and I mean, just it's as cold as it gets. And so I know a little bit about that stuff. But I seen the National Guard out there, and I was like, oh God, that's going to be slow. And I'm not taking any away from the
right?
National Guardsmen, but
Yeah, it's a
you,
mess. Yeah,
yeah. So especially after that was not going to be a quick fix because once those trucks go to sitting, I mean, here's the thing: most of those drivers that run along that I-20 corridor, they run it day in and day out. Going from the East Coast to the West Coast, and they don't have to deal with that a whole lot. if you've got just a little bit of moisture in your air brake system, and or you stop and you've had ice build up because you've been running through it, and you stop, the heat from your brakes, it melts the ice or the water onto your brake shoes and all that stuff, and it literally ends up freezing it locked shut. You know how you get it free? You
With a
aren't going to get
hammer.
it free. You got a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
You got to go bust it with a sledgehammer. Now, I doubt those guard guys have had a lot of experience with going and having to how to get that crap loose. And and I would venture to say that most of those truck drivers run the southern route. They don't know either.
Well, but hear me out though. Here's my biggest problem with this. This was going on 12 to 14 hours before anything was being done. And I look, I understand the logistics of it, that once the, thousands of cars and trucks and regular cars and trucks are involved in it, then it becomes a real cluster to get everybody moving. I get that part of it. But it was all over social media for more than half a day before anybody should have shown up. Jeff Landry, here's the thing. You might should have jumped in your little whirlybird helicopter and run out there at least to assess the situation. Because it took for, and this is not the first time this has happened in almost the same spot. So we're watching this, and my wife says, well, if we were traveling that road, let's just say in your truck, what would you have done? And I said, well, I would have got out, walked, found a spot that was not a steep ditch, and four-wheel drive, here we go, and we fix and turn around in the median and head the other way. Now, the problem is the stupid fence that they've put through the middle of the median. I mean, I got a pair of bolt cutters, but that fence is kind of tough, so I'm not sure that my little Lowe's bolt cutters would have taken care of the fence to be able to cross the median, to turn around and get moving instead of sitting there for 24 hours. It drives me insane. And I'm sorry for rambling on and on about ICE. I'm sure y'all saw the notes. You thought we were going to talk about the Border Patrol, but it's crazy that we go through this every ice storm. It is the same routine every single time. You would think that our super intelligent powers that be, benevolent overlords, would just be a little more prepared. Now, I'll give Bossier City a little credit. Bossier City this time around did seem, the little bit that I got out, did seem to be working on the roads much faster than the last time.
Well, look, I'm not going to throw as much criticism. I don't know what the heck happened out there on I-20 with all them trucks and all of that. It was egregious to me that those trucks and those people out there for, much less 24 hours, but longer than what they did. I mean, I don't know. I would be real interested to learn what the failure was out there. I mean, I know there's heavy wreckers out there and that crap should have been being moved. So that's why I defer to that, a lack of knowledge on the trucks and how to get those trucks out of the way. It has to be part of the problem there. With that being said, I want to point out, to my knowledge, I've not noticed us ever deploying really road graders to grade ice and snow off of a roadway. To me, this is the first recollection of a storm that I remember seeing that. I don't remember ever seeing that. I mean, I was in Bossier for 20 years, in public service, and I don't remember ever seeing that. I don't.
It's the first time I remember seeing it, other than once or twice here or there, that I can recall. So maybe Bossier was a little more prepared this time around. And yeah, but I still, it just never ceases to amaze me how ill prepared we seem to be overall. And you can't say, oh, it's Louisiana. We don't know how to deal with ice. This ain't our first ice storm, folks. It's not. And it's not going to be the last. Anyway.
Well, I will tell you, I was pleasantly surprised at how Bossier weathered the storm from an electricity standpoint.
Yes,
We didn't lose power. How the heck did that happen? People
because
all around us were
it was
losing
sleet.
power, but we weren't.
It was the sleet. The
It was
sleet,
no.
the sleet doesn't, the sleet doesn't, I mean, very little freezing rain. The sleet doesn't stick to the lines and the trees like that. It bounces off, and that's what saved us.
Maybe so. I will tell you, I ventured up. I had to go to the farm. I had to shut a skid motor off and pumping water, believe it or not, because the drought that we were having. And I did notice there was a crap load of pines that they were bending. I mean, they were at the
Right.
point it looked like they had just enough. And had it been a little bit more, I think we would have had a lot more trees down. But for the most part, we did good.
Yeah, I hate to say I was disappointed. I was not disappointed that we kept electricity, but I was ready for it this time, and we didn't lose electricity.
At
So,
Barksdale Bubble, Val Baker says the bubble saved us again.
yeah. So anyway, that's my gripe session for the evening on the weather. I agree that it did seem that Bossier was a little better prepared or dealt with it a little better this time overall. It's just look, I-49 still being closed, part of the overchanges today, that's stupid. Just ridiculous. They should have had that cleared long ago. Ice
You talking
packed
you
up
talking
there,
about
not.
the overpass to Benton?
No, the 3132
Oh
I-49
yeah.
North interchange right there, that was closed.
Well, the overpass to Benton was completely shut down. But what I would tell you is, if you went to Benton up in North Bossier, the overpass just north of the town of Benton to go to
Yeah,
Plain Dealing, man, it didn't have no ice on it. Whatever the ice, the salt, or they put enough salt on there that it didn't have a damn thing on it. But you go to Bossier City and the overpass to Benton, I mean, it's like a skating rink.
yeah. Well, maybe maybe they'll get it figured out, but probably not in our lifetimes. Anyway, all right.
Hey,
So I,
hey, I'm sorry.
go
Look,
ahead.
I see in the comments our good friend, one of the Ferris halves.
Oh yes, yes. Let's see, MB Ferris. That would be Michael Ferris Sr., known as Ferris, I believe. Let's see.
Yeah.
He says that was done on Sligo Road. First time he's noticed that also. Oh, I got to adjust comments here. Hold on. Got
Well,
to resize my
one of
comments.
go ahead. One of the reasons I point out our good friend there, Pelican Training and Consulting, you guys know they are the go-to folks. If you got to have CPR and you got to have safety training and all that stuff, those folks have been on the front end of supporting transparency in government and all the things that I think the majority of us all agree with and align with. I mean, they've always been there, but it it raises a point. Um, Julie Ferris, his better half, she made a post on Facebook and she tagged us. And I think it's a valid thing that she was to talk about. And we've somewhat talked about it in the past. And I don't know if you would like to partake in that discussion now. I think it's worthy of talking about. When we're talking about the Senate race coming up, and
Right. Yeah,
there's
I'm
a little bit
good.
of a perspective here.
I'm good for ranting and raving about whatever tonight. It's one of those nights.
Well, let's get after it. So I got a link to what she tagged us in, and uh, she ironically utilized or shared one of the posts of someone who has been a guest on our show, and I consider a friend, Jill Hines at Health Freedom Louisiana. And we've kind of not really been, I don't know, I guess you could say we've tried to be non-denominational. We got a lot of friends on different sides of things in the Senate race. I
Um,
like everybody that has been in it. Yeah, you
all
have
right,
your
so
cursor
that
over it.
that link is dead, or we've been. I don't think Jill would probably block us, but that link is coming up dead. So let me see if I can find it.
Okay.
Was it a post of Jill's or a post of Julie's?
Well, Julie was sharing one of Jill's.
Okay, let me see if I can find everybody.
Yeah,
Let's
it's not
see.
far down in her post there. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. They're such a good looking couple.
They are, and fun to hang out with too. By the way.
They are. They're maybe a little bit too much fun.
All right. It's probably because depends on her settings that she has because I don't see it. Was it a post of Jill's?
It was a post of Jill's.
All right.
And
So
you
let
know,
me see.
it basically for y'all what Jill was pointing out, she was putting a criticism up of former congressman, now the Treasury. What is it? He's the
State
Secretary, the
Treasurer.
Treasurer, State Treasurer, John Fleming.
Right.
Yeah, there it is right there with all of the
This.
legislators. Oh, I see the picture. Nope, keep going. On the left,
Oh.
I guess that's that looks
Uh.
like a all of the legislators in that photo that you're showing right there on the left, that was the post that Julie was referencing.
Okay. Well, anyway,
So
I'll try to find. It was against Fleming.
correct.
All right. I'll
In
see if I can
essence,
find.
what Jill was trying to say, and she was trying to say that all of the legislators who were the most outspoken against the carbon, right there, that post
Capture.
right there, yep, the carbon capture
Okay.
stuff right there.
All
You
right.
got it.
Let me see. I'll see if I
Um,
can put it up on the screen a little bit better.
yeah,
But
she
go
was
ahead.
trying to say and be critical of that those folks were all of these legislators were the most outspoken against the carbon, sequestration stuff. And to their credit, I'm not taking anything away from them. They are, but we even had Danny McCormick on here and talked about, and Danny acknowledged that they kind of didn't know, and there were some bad things that were put in front of them, and they had some bad votes. Wasn't no secret. Well, Fleming early on was being critical of all of the legislators, and it would be somewhat hypocritical. And he was mainly, I think, directing that at Blake Miguez, as a result. Well, it was a fair criticism, in my opinion. I mean, because if you have a bad vote, you have a bad vote, and you've
Well,
got to own it.
uh, here's the difference though. Because I was having a phone call with somebody about actually I've had more than one over the last few days about all this. Here's the difference. Chuck Owen and Danny McCormick both came on this show and
Hmm.
admitted that their votes were a mistake. Literally said that.
That's right,
All right.
100%.
The problem I have with Miguez, and again, I'm not really taking sides. I'm going to vote for Fleming. I'd just soon vote for Miguez, honestly. But to me, and I've searched, maybe I missed his post, maybe I missed a video he put out. But to me, Blake's position on that has not been made crystal clear. We know Chuck and Danny's position on it. They made some bad votes that they readily admit they made bad votes. Okay. I don't think Blake has come out and said, hey, I'm not really proud of this vote that I made, or I made this vote without really researching all the information. Or he could come out and say, no, that's the vote that I intended to make. Now, either way, that's fine. I wouldn't be mad at him either way. I'm not going to vote on them for the Senate candidate based on their carbon sequestration votes. I'm not happy if they
And
support it, but that's not going to be what's going to be the deciding factor in my vote. Now, let me finish with my soapbox for just a second, so bear with me. So what Jill and Jamie Marie Pope and all of them are doing is everybody's picked their sides and everybody's picked their lane. And so they're going to do everything that they can to defend their guy and tear down the other people. And that's part of it. It just
yeah,
is.
yeah,
Uh,
100%.
Look, you and I typically do that. We've done that a lot on this show many times in this race. I think I can speak for both of us. We're absolutely against Cassidy because he's a traitor. I don't care about
100%.
anything else he's done. But look, it's like that whole, and we talked about it briefly, that poll that showed the percentage votes cast are supposed to be conservative or not, and Julia Letlow was supposed to, be right down there by Cassidy. Well, the truth is, she was only like 4 percentage points behind, like uh, Kennedy's votes on things. 4. That's 4 out of 100. So it's not like, she was voting down in the 20 percentile and Kennedy was voting in the 80 percentile. It was like 4 or 5 percentage points. That, to me, is not going to swing my decision one way or the other either.
Well, so look, I don't think you said anything that I disagree with really. But that's not what jumped out at me here. What jumped out at me here is uh, reading this post that Jill made. I mean, Jill's my friend, but when I read it, and I read it with an open mind, I mean, because Julie Ferris had tagged us, and I was like, okay, I think I probably already know this debate and this issue, but I'm gonna, in all fairness, I'm gonna read Jill's post. I already know Jill has a dog in the hunt. She's taken a side. But when I read it, that original language, Jill was trying to say that the people who are in favor of carbon capture were attacking all these legislators in coordination and or because of John Kennedy being critical of all of their votes. And I don't know if there's any proof in that. I
You talking
don't
about
believe
Kennedy or Fleming being critical?
Fleming.
Okay. Just
Fleming.
want to make
Yeah,
sure.
not Kennedy. That's
I mentioned
yeah,
Kennedy
that's
earlier, but yeah, I got you.
Kennedy's been on my mind a lot lately, and you know why. But anyway, so, but if as I read that, and you can read it yourself, but it's almost like she's suggesting that Fleming is coordinating. Now Fleming is
Well,
being he's
let
been
me
the most outspoken against carbon stuff, but
let
now
me
it's being said that he's it's being suggested he's steering or responsible for the pro carbon capture lobby attacking the legislators who are now fighting against carbon capture.
All right, so let me
I
read
think
at
I think
least a
that's a
paragraph.
stretch.
Well, let me read a paragraph of her deal because it might be kind of hard to see, and for folks watching on the smaller phones and all that. I'm reading one of her paragraphs, but you can go to Jill Dillingham Hines and search her. We've had Jill on; she's a good friend and all that. But her post is public, so she says this CCS junk is rooted in John Fleming's Senate campaign and a so-called conservative organization hired by Fleming, the same group that used her name to assert Blake Miguez voted for vaccine mandates, an absolute lie. Who is going to work with Fleming in his current office or in the U.S. Senate after his willingness to throw these conservatives under the bus? She is right. From the perspective of Fleming has pumped over the apple cart. Look, McCormick and I were talking about
But
this last night at the Caddo
but
water
okay,
meeting.
is your voting record fair game or not? If
Absolutely.
I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. But to say that Fleming is responsible for the pro carbon capture people attacking legislators that are opposing them, I think that's a bridge too far.
Now maybe there's some specific posts where there were some errors or something. I don't know because I've only just kind of been vaguely aware that all this hullabaloo was going on in this hornet's nest. But it is absolutely fair game. It is the only thing that you should directly attack is somebody's voting record. Don't go by what a politician says to you. Go by what they do. I'll give you a prime example. Bear with me for a second while I kind of veer off the beaten path here. I'm pissed off at Trump right now. His damn rhetoric, his Second Amendment rhetoric over the shooting of the guy in Minneapolis a few days ago, Kristi Noem's rhetoric, Kash Patel's rhetoric, they ought to be strung up. If I could take my Trump vote back right now, I'm so pissed off I would. However,
Whoa,
let me
whoa,
let me finish.
hold,
However,
hold,
let me
hold up.
finish. I have consistently said I don't care if Trump runs naked across the White House lawn with a bunch of cocaine and hookers running behind him, as long as he makes good Supreme Court picks and good federal judiciary picks, which he has done consistently. So even though I'm pissed off about him running his mouth, or as my grandmother used to say, letting his mouth overload his ass, the past couple of days on this issue, I'll forgive him here in a few days after I get through being pissed off. Now,
Why why did you have to bring hookers in this? Why did you have to bring, I mean, the cocaine and all that, I can get that, but the
Border
hookers, I mean, come on.
Patrol, ICE, they're
Why you
getting the rapists and the sex
why you hating on
traffickers.
hookers?
I've been watching that stuff for. Hey, my shirt literally says part-time hooker on it. Hold on.
I mean, look, he's trying to get money, he's trying to stop all the drugs from coming in. So I was
I
going to take that
agree.
part as a joke, but then you had to throw hookers in here.
I agree with what he's doing with ICE. That's not my problem. But when he came out and said you shouldn't have guns, no, wrong thing to say. Even if you said it and
Who
didn't mean
shouldn't
it.
have guns? Who shouldn't
Trump
have guns?
Trump said you should not go to protests with guns. He forgets all the Second Amendment protests and everything where we all show up with guns.
Well, you're my friend, and I'm not going to go protest you knowing you got a gun.
Let me put it this way, Mr. Lowrie. There are very few times where I'm more than a couple of feet away from a firearm. Very few. And some of those are the reasons I don't go to the city council meetings that much, because I have to disarm to go in the place. It's why I don't like going up to the courthouse that much unless we have to, because you have to disarm, including your keychain for that matter. I can't take my Army issued, it was Air Force issued to my grandfather, his little, I think it's a P-38 can opener that he gave to me that I keep on my keychain. I've had it since I was a kid. I can't even take that into the Bossier Parish Courthouse. I was like, you're going to let me take my keys? I can kill you with my keys easier than this can opener.
See, I'm unconcerned with your worries about being able to get in and out of the courthouse without being checked. Now I've got my wife wondering why I'm defending the hookers.
I'm not staying focused on that. I mentioned it one time. You've now mentioned it 4.
But it's just like, I don't know what it is about you. You have this knack for getting me in the middle of some stuff. But
squirrel.
I don't know. I mean, look, I don't agree with Jill on this. I don't know how she can suggest that it's John Fleming, his campaign, or anything's fault when they were the first people to jump out there. They made an issue of this, took a position, said, we're against eminent domain. We're against carbon sequestration. They took a strong position on that. They criticized everybody. They criticized anybody. They could have just advocated for how strong they are on the position, but they made it an issue. We the same way we do on this show. They said all these legislators, even people who are friends that identify with them, with him, they had these votes. And I would contend that probably that action has steered some of them to take a more strong position against it, and has probably moved the needle a little bit. But to suggest that they may be coordinating or working with the pro lobby when their all their advocacy has been against carbon sequestration, I don't know. I just don't, I don't like that. I think that's the same, that's spin, but it's campaigns, it's politics.
Yeah, they've picked their sides, and that's fine. Again, I like Blake Miguez very much so. Look, he finally got constitutional carry back to the people in the state of Louisiana after McCormick had tried for many years and a couple of other people. He got that across the finish line. You know, that's my litmus test for everybody. So I don't have a problem with Blake. Do I like his carbon sequestration votes and eminent domain votes that's got everybody's dander up? No, I don't particularly like them, but I can overlook that because of a Second Amendment stance. So anyway,
and my problem, and this is throwing all the legislators that had a bad vote on this, and I said this when I ran trying to go down there. I think it's bullcrap that these legislators have the quantity of legislation that is poured on them every session. And I'm not crying for them or pity pot. That's not what this is about. But what I'm saying to everybody is that your legislators get too many bills, too much information poured on them and sought to be forced through these sessions. And the result is you get a product that comes out of these legislative sessions that has not been able to be thoroughly considered by the legislators, and the legislators find themselves in the position to where they have to depend on lobbyists or people to give them summations what this means, and they may not always get the full summation that they need. I mean, lobbyists they're paid to try to steer things a certain way. So the only way you fix this to where is you slow down the process, you slow down the quantity of stuff that's coming through there. You know, some person, I had this debate with another person. They said, "Well, we need to start paying these legislators a real big salary, and they just do this full time." I don't think that solves your problem.
I don't think it solves it either at
That
all.
just that just says that, well, you're paying them. They should be able to do the more bills. They should be able to do more stuff. Well, I'm sorry.
I don't think that's going to work out as well as people think it would. Look,
Yeah,
and I'm the first person to say that, you know, whatever the state approved salary is for them, I don't know, it's like less than $20,000 a year or whatever it is. Um, I don't think that that's enough considering the amount of time that they have to do. And I don't mind them being compensated some for their time and expense, even though they're serving as an elected official. I wouldn't mind that being bumped up a little bit, you know, or whatever. But sure enough, paying them to be a full time look how Congress turns out. I mean, let's just you can use that as an easy litmus test. How well that works out, just apply
it,
that to the state level, and well, you have about the same thing, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, it's the same thing on the federal level. I was literally reading through bills today that just endless amounts of bills, and there's no way that any your senators, your congressmen, there's no way they can process through all of this legislation. You know, we're sending people to do work that and tasking them to do work that they cannot do.
Right.
There's no way they can, on their best day, process all this information effectively. The only thing they can do is take a guess on some of it, focus on a couple of things, and be really good at it, you know, or they suck at everything and
Yeah.
try to do a little bit on everything. It's a broken process and it needs to change a little bit.
Yeah. And just to remind everybody, because we got a couple of text messages, that we're running the beta version of the software tonight, trying out a new feature. We may have a little stop motion, little lag, little delay. I understand that, but we're testing the software out. So if you don't mind, bear with us. If you don't like it, you can just tune us out. We hope you don't. All right. So what shall we've covered the ice, we've covered the Senate. What about the Caddo DA?
Yeah, you know, John Settle in Settle Talk, he has been on top of that a little bit. You know, him being a former attorney and all. Hell, he may still be an attorney. I don't know. It ain't none of my business what he does or what he doesn't do. But I do know he puts out Settle Talk. He stays on top of this stuff, and he was putting a little bit of a report out. No surprise on this, but James Stewart announced that he was running for re-election. No surprise there.
Yeah, no surprise. And I, Caddo is Caddo. I think as a whole, Caddo Parish is not that bad. It's just some parts of Shreveport, of course, leave a little bit to be desired as far as crime and all that sort of thing. But I guess he's doing an okay job as a whole on the, on balance. But there is always a complaint that a lot of folks either get released over there or get light sentences or whatever, and apparently the what they call it, recidivism and recommission of crimes is kind of high. I don't know, but maybe he's a good enough DA. He'll probably get elected. I don't know who's going to run against him.
Well, don't know who's going to run against him. Come on now. What are you talking about? You don't know who's going to run against him?
Let me see if I can find my little crickets sound thing.
You're trying to set me up here or something, or?
I was trying to tee you up a softball. Here we go. Wait.
Okay. Okay. Well, so there is an opponent, as I appreciate it. He already announced, and it was at a Mexican restaurant, according to John Settle.
Oh, Seabiscuit?
Yeah, Seabiscuit.
I forgot about Seabiscuit. See?
I mean, I wasn't invited, but I don't know that I'd win if I was invited. But look, oh god, my wife, Duke's hero.
Yeah, I had a politician recently refer to him as Seabiscuit. I won't say who it was, but anyway.
Well, yeah. Well, look, we're talking about James Stewart here. So
yes.
The interesting thing was those in attendance at James Stewart's deal, and like I think you said, our DA Skylar Marvin. In which I think that's probably respectable that he was there. I wonder if he was at Seabiscuit's announcement.
At the horse feeding? I mean, Seabiscuit's announcement thing?
Well, I mean, look, he probably got some free fajitas if he'd have went, but I don't know. I mean, maybe he's got something against Corona or Doseki. I don't know, but Skylar Marvin was there.
Interesting.
I think to political insiders, that may not be such a surprise, but that you've got, a Republican district attorney there at a Democrat DA who was heavily funded by George Soros in his first campaign. And we all know who George Soros is. I mean, the guy that had the idea that the way to affect change across the country, one way among other ways, was to elect, liberal DAs across the country to where, they could have influence, because if you have election challenges, who would end up being right square in the middle of that? It would be the DAs in each parish. That's where the challenges and the lodging those challenges would go, was before the DA.
Well, all right. So let's hear in the comments, because we got about 50 folks watching. See Mr. Marriott's in the comments, and Mrs. Julie Ferris is there as well now. Who do you think's going to win? You think Seabiscuit's got an actual shot at it?
Well,
do you think he could win the horses race, so to speak?
Well, look, I have to tell you, I think he does. I think candidates in Caddo Parish, parish-wide, if you got a good candidate, I think a good candidate can win. I'm not a fan of Seabiscuit. I think I've shared that before in this show. People know that. But at the same time, I can look at this thing objectively, and I can tell you, regardless of what I think about Seabiscuit, you cannot take away from the fact that the guy will work his butt off. He
Well, and
is
he's
a
positioned himself well with name recognition, and um, he's positioned, whether he is or not, he's positioned himself as a conservative, and guy that'll carry the mantle and all that, even though that's not necessarily true. But that's the way he's positioned himself. And, from a campaign standpoint, that's a good thing. It's probably going to come down to demographics as well. And I don't remember the Republican Democrat mixture in Caddo Parish. And is I don't know, maybe y'all can help me in the comments, Duke, maybe is the DA in Caddo Parish just Caddo Parish, or is it like over here where it's, Webster and Bossier Parish, kind of a mixture?
No, it's just Caddo Parish,
Okay.
but that race is really, it's a coin toss, a 50-50 thing. I think both demographically and party and all that. But I think that he is a hard campaigner. I think he will campaign harder than James Stewart, hands down. Is he is he a fighter? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Does he piss people off? You better believe it. I mean, look, people there should be no doubt as to whether they would support him from the conservative side. There's people will sit on their hands and they're not going to do anything to help him because just his demeanor and the way he carries himself.
Yeah.
The big question here is what's his best buddy walk on water going to do?
MJ, you think MJ's going to endorse him? I mean,
I don't know, but I'm just saying that's peas and carrots right there. I mean, they both carry a spare knife in their back pocket to put in, any back that's needed so the other one can't be blamed for the other one. I mean, I would be shocked if Mike didn't weigh into this thing. James Stewart, uh, supported by Soros and all that money back in the previous election. I don't know if he'll do it this time. He allegedly has 100,000 in the bank right now. Seaball, there's according to Settled, no money to speak of, maybe because there's no report. But I could envision Mike steering national support in an attempt to get Stewart removed. I could see that coming.
Good, fair point. And look, I'm sure Seabiscuit will have plenty of campaign funding once it gets rolling. I mean, let's not forget he is literally an insurance company attorney, so I'm sure he does pretty well in that practice, and I'm sure he can raise funds.
Well, and the other dynamic here is he pissed the governor off. He's not the only one. Him, our it's no secret that our senator over here in Bossier, he pissed the governor off, and arguably there were things our area suffered as a result of those guys, and you know I don't. That one is more of a paradox to me, is how the governor's plays in this thing,
Yeah.
and I would find it hard to believe that the governor comes out and supports James Stewart. I think he doesn't do anything at all. But I can tell you, I don't think he's going to come out and support Seaball.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to keep an eye on, and as things quieten. Is that an actual word? Trying to remember. I'm tense. Anyway, as things get a little more quiet over here with the city council, hopefully continue to get a little more quiet. We're gonna keep an eye on some of the Caddo stuff, and of course, we're going to keep our attention on the police jury. We kind of hinted about that last week. We showed the video of Sadow at the police jury meeting, pretty much reading them the riot act from his commentary, and we teased out that we might have some interesting stuff coming down the pipe about the police jury. So, what else are we going to talk about tonight? Shall I get on my soapbox about the Caddo water? Hey, so let me do that for a second, because I was actually pitching for the data center that they're supposed to put over there around Blanchard, State Line Road, I was pitching that, hey, those people ought to try to sway them over here. We got plenty of water. What do you think about that, Mr. Lowrie? Isn't this supposed to be the same company, even though we don't know because our city council signed NDAs? Um,
Well, I think that's most certainly a guarantee. I think that if those folks in Caddo and Blanchard and all of that, they don't want it. I I think the door is wide open in Bossier. Come on over here. And
well, it's funny because let me switch to screenshot, so hopefully this will work. Oh, look, that's what I see when I'm doing trying to manage all this. There's my dual screen setup. But anyway, let me get away from that. This is our good friend, Mr. Chris Crackman, Caddo commissioner over there, which is basically like our police jury. Pretty much the same thing. So give me just a second. Let me put this screenshot up on the vertical side over there for folks that may be watching vertically. Anyway, he's putting a resolution or going to try to get a resolution advanced through the Caddo Commission. Of course, that's kind of contentious over there in Caddo Parish, especially with Mr. Crackman. But he says he's got a resolution urging and requesting that the Red River Compact Commission and the Louisiana Department of Energy and Natural Resources place a moratorium on the withdrawal of water from Caddo Lake for any use other than small commercial or residential use and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. This would request a pause on any industrial sized project that would feed off Caddo Lake, hence the data center, until the questions of water woes are answered. He's not anti anything. It's being transparent after many calls. And last night's, actually, I was there at the meeting, had a pretty good turnout. That they don't know. Both Danny and Chris were there, and they stood up and told everybody, "Hey, we can't tell you much. We can just tell you what we don't know, and who may know some stuff but won't say because they signed NDAs." So,
I mean, look, so we've talked about this on countless shows in the past, kind of like we're old farts in the social media thing here, but we dug into this water thing. The the source of water in our area that is able to be a source to adequately supply on a large scale water needs for industrial purposes, as well as regular people potable consumption, you may say, is the Red River.
right.
And Bossier City, to its credit, is set up to be able to process water out of the Red River. I mean, I can remember the joke about, we pull in our water. The city of Shreveport dumps their sewer in it, and we pull our water out of it. And but the truth of the matter is I'm not, and I don't know the numbers. You probably know the numbers, Rex. I got to tell you, if I was a Caddo Lake person or whatever, I would probably have reservations about the volume of water that's going to be needed coming out of Caddo Lake too. I I agree with it. That is a wetland, and a that's a big deal. That goes far beyond just Louisiana. That's a Texas deal too.
Well, yeah, and so let me get on my soapbox for a minute, so y'all bear with me. This is pretty much the same spiel that I gave at this meeting last night and gave at the Greater Caddo Lake Association meeting last week, or was a week before, in Mooringsport. But look, here's the deal. The truth is, right now, if you go stand at the spillway of Caddo Lake and you set your watch and wait about 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, in that amount of time, there is enough water that has gone over the spillway, approximately 3 to 3.5 million gallons, that would more than supply the data center for an entire day, as far as we know now. Okay? So 3.5 minutes going over the spillway, dumping into 12 Mile Bayou, and then eventually dumping into the Red River would supply that data center. What they're trying to do is, the town of Blanchard has a lease with the town of Mooringsport. I think it's a 99-year lease for $100 a month to lease the area by the Mooringsport boat ramp where the water intake is, and Mooringsport doesn't actually draw any water out. Blanchard does, and then sells it to Oil City and these other communities around there. So that's why Blanchard is on the hot seat for selling the water potentially to this data center. Okay, so the truth is there's enough water going over the spillway, and look, 77% of the time, or between 70 and 80% of the time, Caddo Lake is above pool stage, which means water's flowing over that spillway. The biggest problem I have is that if we get through another drought period like we had in 2011, and that's a problem, and then if another data center comes in, or if Texas is finally successful in drawing water out of Caddo or upstream from Caddo out of Big Cypress, which feeds Caddo Lake, if they're successful in diverting water and selling it over to Dallas, it's like playing whack-a-mole. And then one data center comes in and they're going to say, oh, that wasn't very difficult and they were able to get through and able to get water and all that. Let's build another data center and another data center. And then you have a real problem. The other thing is, and I'm almost done, Caddo Lake is getting shallower, at least 30% shallower from the time that they built or rebuilt the dam and the weir back in the early 70s. So what that means is all that plant life and all that dies and all the salvinia that they spray have to kill it, well, it settles on the bottom and it silts in and it can't flow properly down 12 Mile Bayou and into the Red River because the dam is there. So the lake is getting shallower, which means it's literally every year has less volume of water to be able to supply any of these data centers. So I pitched last night. I said, hey, why don't y'all try to run them off and steer them over here to Bossier? Apparently, Bossier and the Port Authority, we got plenty of water. So there's my soapbox.
Yeah, and so like, I mean, look, you know, you don't know what to. I mean, my good friend Ruth Pope Johnson, and we've had some talks about this, and there's a little bit of uh, question regarding numbers that look, Ruttenbuck and the old man shack, I think they call it Wagner Engineering now. I mean, look, I'm aspect of them, especially after the days of what they did with the Shed Road crossing. I got to tell you, I don't know that I'm ever going to take what they say at face value, because they tried to pass off something on another engineering company when it was clearly their responsibility. But she points out that the volume of water that recently Bossier City and Tommy Chandler signed some agreement with somebody to provide so much water that would exceed the total amount of water that I don't know on those numbers, but if the public statements that if, and I don't know if they're lying or not, I can't say that, but if the numbers are correct, Bossier City should be able to supply the water, as they needed. And while former Councilman Montgomery and that former council said, if we build this pipeline to the port, we won't never have to raise water rates again. And lo and behold, 1 year later, we're raising everybody's damn water rates. I think, and I trust, we all did a lot of work to put new elected officials into Bossier, people that would check those boxes and make sure that, some of these people that we're talking about, they went along with that water line and they acknowledged that there's the chance that that thing could go the other direction. But we all work to get them in there, and they say that we've got it, and we got to put our faith and trust in them telling us that they got it.
Well, not just that.
We've heard the number.
We literally have Cypress Reservoir that's never been used as a reservoir. It's been used as a water skiing and fishing lake and shooting fireworks off, and that's about it.
Oh no, it's also used to abuse local landowners. Just
Well,
ask the
and
Cypress District.
yeah, and they use it to dump, some of the sewage and stuff from the couple of those subdivisions over there and a few people's houses and all that. But that's a whole other story. So I don't know. Here's the thing to me, you know, the math doesn't lie right now. Would this one particular data center drastically hurt Caddo? No, unless we just had a horrendous drought. Can't really predict that. I wouldn't have a problem if they said, look, if it is, if the water level in Caddo gets down to pool stage, thus no water is running over the spillway, you can't draw from Caddo Lake. You'll have to pull from an alternative source. If there's water flowing over the spillway, personally, I don't care if they draw it out of there or not. It's literally just flowing over the spillway. I would argue that Caddo actually needs a drawdown. I would argue and can make a damn good argument that that entire dam and weir needs to be redone with some drawdown gates to actually draw Caddo down periodically. You got to do something to dry the silt out and compact that silt. It is noticeable that it is getting shallower. But that's a whole other
Now look, I'm
discussion.
going. Yeah, I'm gonna. Our good friend Julie Ferris points out and makes a comment about billions of gallons of water per year, and I'm going to plead my ignorance right here publicly in front of everyone and say, and she says, trash water that cannot be recycled. And so I will plead my ignorance to say that I don't understand, and maybe somebody in the comments can explain. I thought that the purpose of having to have a huge supply of water for these data centers was just simply to cool, to cool the air conditioning systems, or to cool the temperature down. It's not like some process where we're adding chemicals and you've got low gravs and things that you've got to filter out. So I don't understand how or why the water can't be recycled in some way.
It can
I
be.
am acknowledging
It
my
is literally going back, or as of right now, it is intended to go into Shreveport sewage system.
From Bossier. You mean
No,
no? You
I'm
mean in
talking about
Shreveport?
over there. I'm talking about over there, the data center over there. So, and
Right.
look,
Well, I don't think Julie would just make that up. So I'm wondering from if that is if I want to understand why would it be unable to be recycled? Who is saying that, and why do they say that? What is it about the process that causes it to not be able to be recycled? Is what I'm curious about.
well, I don't know. And here's the other thing. So, at 365 days a year, if let's say this data center was going to pull at maximum capacity, what they're claiming at 5 million gallons a day. So, rough math, what is that? 365 times 5, that'd be a little over a billion gallons a year. There's 42 billion gallons of water in Caddo at pool stage. Probably a little less than that because of the siltation, but around let's just say 35 to 40 billion gallons of water in Caddo Lake right now at pool stage. Now, again, I'm not advocating for the data center pulling from Caddo Lake, but the math is the math. So, again, my problem is once they get one data center in, there's going to be another and going to be another. And that problem is going to get worse, especially if Texas has the rights to 50% of the water in Caddo, basically. So that problem is going to be exacerbated if they start sending and diverting water to Dallas, in addition to building multiple data centers over here that are pulling out of Caddo. As much as I want a drawdown on Caddo periodically, I want that to be a very controlled thing, not a free for all. So I want to make clear what my stance on this is.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And again, I plead my ignorance. I know that you're more knowledgeable on this, but as I appreciate it, historically, Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana has had a compact on water rights, from that I think all those tributaries in some way a little bit base off of the Red River. But, does that that old compact come into play here on all of
Yes,
this or not?
because it was actually redone and updated in 1980 or 81. I posted it on the Outdoor News. I may share it over on Bossier Watch, or y'all can just go to the Outdoor News, but I've actually posted the information sheet on that Red River Compact, which controls the water rights between Texas and Louisiana, as well as Oklahoma and all that for the Red River, but it also controls it for Caddo Lake as well. And that's where you basically get the 50-50 split between Texas and Louisiana. Even though, James Bayou or James Bayou is on the Louisiana side, Big Cypress Bayou contributes about 37 to 40% of the water that comes through Caddo. That comes out of the back of Lake of the Pines, which again, that's a
Yeah,
whole other conversation.
yeah, and to all of their credit, they years ago they all oh crap, I can't. It was a big lawsuit. I think it was between Oklahoma and Texas that brought all of that to the head, which ended up resulting in the compact. But it, as I appreciate it, correct me if I'm wrong, Rex, it delineated what rights each state has to so much of the resource, and all of that is coming into. They saw in the future that every state was going to end up having more increased demand, increased demand, increased demand, and probably at some point we were going to get to where we're at today, and it's going to this thing's going to grow. It ain't going to get smaller. This issue is going to be more contested and more
Well,
litigated probably as time goes on.
here's the thing, and the buzzword of the day is AI, AI, AI. But the truth is, data centers have been around for a long time. It's not just AI. As we do more and more computing and we have these little phones and we're broadcasting live across social media, that's all powered by data centers. So think of data centers not as some new technology. There is not at all, but you need horsepower. So it's kind of like a car. The more people that you stuff into a car, the more horsepower you have to be able to drive those people down the road at a certain speed, or a pickup truck. If you're pulling a trailer, the heavier the trailer is, the more horsepower you got to have to pull it. The data centers provide horsepower to companies like Facebook, Google, etc., Amazon, etc., to be able to do all this computational power that they have to do as we're coming into their services and websites with our devices. Does that make sense?
So you're yeah, so you're the tech guy here, and the issue is water and cooling, right?
Yes.
That's the big issue with these things.
Water
Okay,
cooling and
so you're
electricity.
so you're the tech guy. I mean, Elon Musk has proposed putting these data centers in space. I think he even in a post he went out so far to say is that the future is ultimately all of this will be stored not on the planet but in space, natural cooling per se. What's the feasibility of that? I mean, is the ability of transmission via satellite or whatever? I mean, is that plausible?
It's plausible, but let me give you an example. So the problem with doing this in space right now is latency. Okay. And to put that in perspective, let's use traditional satellite internet access before Starlink. Okay. The problem with that is those were single geostationary satellites that were way up there in space. And so the round trip time that it took a packet of data to travel from Earth up to the satellite and back was generally over a second. Now, that doesn't sound like very long, but a second in computer time is an eternity. Starlink, the reason it's insanely popular and so good is because those are low Earth orbit satellites, and he's putting up thousands of them, not a single geostationary, and they're not very, very high up, actually. So the latency or round trip time of the data packets with Starlink is much less. You can actually first person game, shooter game on Starlink and have a pretty good experience. You can't do that with traditional satellite uplink. So I would think the problem that has to be solved is the latency of the data packets traveling that far into space and back. And that's a physics problem that would be exceedingly difficult to overcome.
So how I perceive that in layman's terms. So it's like if you need a home mortgage and you want to be able to get it done fast, and you can go to Kara at Acadiana and you can walk right into her office versus you go to somebody else and
You
they
got to
may
go
be
up
out
to
of
the
state or
and on the
it's
10th
out
floor of the building, you got to go up the elevators just to get to them. Yeah, exactly.
it's
Kara, you
out
can just
yeah
walk into her office and get it done.
yeah it's outsourced way the hell out, and you may not even know who you're talking to.
Yeah, your round trip time, your overall time to get it done. Yeah, it's much less
uh,
with Kara. So yes, Kara is like Elon Musk. She just didn't know it.
Rates have been dropping, you guys. So I mean, look, if you're looking at a mortgage and you need to be making a move, you need to get on the phone with Kara. The time
Right.
is right.
And Julie said Starlink already launched. Well, let me just clarify too. So Starlink, I think Elon anticipates somewhere around 17,000 low Earth orbit satellites. Right now, there's somewhere around 10. So he's got a lot more to launch. And that's why they've done the limited rollout. When Starlink came out at first, you could only get it in limited areas because they didn't want to overwhelm the system as they're sending up more and more satellites. And those satellites are designed with a finite life, and they fall back down, in theory, burn up in orbit before they hit the Earth, and they just send more up. So there's your Starlink lesson for the night.
Well, hey, look, I want to bring something to everybody's attention. Something came across my radar. Well, actually, my wife again. She brought something to my attention. Cut one, rounding. And I had no idea about this. Okay, I've not seen this before, and if y'all know Kara, I mean, when you start messing with money, there's nobody better when it comes to dollars and cents, right? Literally, and you damn sure don't want to argue with her over a cent. But apparently, that is exactly what took place here. You see that line right there,
All right. First of
rounding.
all, no, I was more on the grilled sensation. I've not had a grilled sensation.
Look, I'm not so sure that this ain't the best thing that Walt Bigby has brought to Bossier City, but you got to admit, Zaxby's chicken is good. Good job,
Right.
Walt.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
y'all can hate on me for complimenting Walt on Zaxby's, but it's good stuff. I really like the fried mushrooms too. Those are
Yeah.
off the chain. But okay, anyway, but look, have any of y'all been seeing this on your receipts of places that you go?
Well,
What is that? Rounding.
yeah, interesting you say that. We'll give a second for folks to comment and all that. I've had a little bit of experience with this. Now, this is the first time I've actually seen a receipt, but I have seen where places, they're not giving back pennies anymore. I mean,
Well,
and it's to Crump's credit. I mean, he's basically signed another 10 millionth executive order doing away with pennies. But the truth is, it costs like, what is it, 10 cents or 20 cents to make a penny? Like for the federal government to make the penny? It doesn't, that math doesn't add up.
Well, yeah, but I'm sitting here thinking about this. I mean, if these businesses are going to start rounding by a penny, um, I don't know that I completely understand this here, because really, it's how are you going to round on a penny if there's no more pennies? The next denomination is 5 cents, so actually, you're not talking about a penny. You're actually talking about 4 cents.
Well, yeah, and in this case, it was only rounding 1 penny, but you're right. What if it's, 4 pennies? I'm sure the business is going to round up. They're going to rather take 3 or 4 more of your cents rather than give it to you, right?
Well, what's the rule? Is it you're always rounding up? You never round down?
Well, I mean, I know the rule I was taught as a child in math about how to round numbers, but I think they're going to just round up every time. I mean, if I was a business person, it's what I would do.
Well, I I think this is a temporary problem. And you know why I think this is a temporary problem? because I don't think we're going to be holding pennies, nickels, quarters, and dollar bills in the near term. I think it's all going
Fiat
to
currency.
no, it's going to the digital thing, and
Yeah.
we're going to all be doing that. I think this stuff's
Well,
going to be a thing of the
look,
past.
yeah, well, that's a whole other conversation too. But I mean, the truth is, look at any of your dollar bills or whatever, whatever denomination you happen to have in your pocket. It is a legal tender note. There's no gold backing that. It's just the full faith and credit of the United States government. Do we have full faith in our government? Do you do?
I've been buying cryptocurrency. I just got to tell you, I'm loaded up on it, and I ain't on that. I ain't on that West Coast California Bitcoin like some people I know. I ain't doing that crap.
West Coast California.
but,
Well, let me just
but
remind you that to power the blockchain, you need data centers owned by large corporations. Those blockchains don't just happen magically out of thin air. It's not little fairies sprinkling pixie dust to make that work. It takes computing power, and it takes electronics that are primarily built in China, for that matter.
I don't know what that has to do with Bitcoin being at 84,000 right now. But okay, I'll just agree with you.
Hey, it was at 120. I'm still
I
way up
know
on Bitcoin.
it's going the other direction, but
It's
I,
stabilized.
yeah, but I think this is a telltale to the future. I mean, because look, what are the rules on this rounding thing? You know what I'm
Well,
saying? This can't
again,
last.
I know how to round as far as math goes, but I can tell you
Oh
how
yeah.
businesses are going to round. The businesses, and I'm not faulting any business for doing this, the business is going to round it to their good. It's just like the convenience fees. You pay your
What's the
bill.
limit?
Look, wait, 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 wait.
What's the limits on rounding?
Hold on. Let's
Well,
expand this conversation a little bit. When you pay your bill to the city charges, and the state both charge you a flat rate for that. That is not what they're paying. They're literally making money on it. I know I used to be in the credit card business, and to process a debit card is far less than a credit card, but they charge you the same convenience fee whether you're using a credit or a debit card. And that's not the way that
oh,
works at all.
well, I know that, but when we all get over to this digital currency and the crypto stuff, which is coming, Mario's going to be crying. He's going to have to find a new business.
Oh no, he's a smart guy. He knows how to
Oh,
expand.
I know he's a smart guy. I
Everything he
know.
touches turns to gold.
But here is another indicator of something that we haven't, that's not common. We haven't really been seeing this. I mean, this
Right.
is literally on a meal
Yeah,
at a
but
small,
it's
minute
because
level.
Trump did away with the penny, and I'm not faulting him for it. I get it. The math don't work. But it's because Trump did away with the pennies. Look, I agree with the tariffs, but the fact of the matter is the tariffs are also raising a lot of the prices. I get the reasoning behind it, and we have to do a course correction because it's been jacked up for so long, but there's going to be a little bit of pain before there's gain. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there's my 2 cents.
Well,
Not my 1 cent, my 2 cents.
yeah, 2 cents. You're rounding again. I got it. Okay. And Walt's making more sense per chicken. I get
There
it.
you go. He's
I wonder if
adding to his
that's
bottom line. Good for him.
I wonder if that's per nugget or how much per chicken. I don't know.
Yeah.
I could go all day here. Anyway, so hey, I know we're about ready to wrap this thing up, and guys, we all the cold weather and all that stuff, and we all were like kind of locked down and all. And right before that, we had a pretty tragic event in Bossier with one of our
Oh,
local sheriff's deputies that lost his life in a horrible incident, on the train tracks up there off of Benton Road. And Tim Jordan,
yes.
I've got some cuts in the folder regarding that. His services are coming up, but we wanted to kind of plug out there that they put a deal for a memorial fund for him. You know, he had a wife, and as I appreciate it, some kids. And, you know, if there's anything you do, we don't normally do it. We don't normally put these things up here, but I think, you know, in this case, this is one that maybe we ought to kind of put it out there.
Yeah, so give me just a second. I'm working on that because we can't display a Word document. Let me convert it over to a screenshot for just a second. We'll make sure and get it out there on the screen. And
Yeah, believe it or not, we do get press releases and things from local government agencies. There was a time when they tried to cut us out. They didn't act like the attorneys at Bossier City Hall, but we do get a lot of them now, and especially we get the ones, you know, out of Benton. We don't get any from the police jury, but the sheriff's office does, and this was one that they put out. Um, and
yeah,
go ahead.
this is the for the one for the memorial fund. Said it's been established at Citizens Bank and Trust to assist the family of Deputy Tim Jordan, who was tragically killed in the line of duty while serving the Bossier Parish Sheriff's Office on January 21st, 2026. Dedicated public servant who faithfully served the citizens of Bossier Parish with honor, courage, and commitment. His loss has deeply impacted the sheriff's office, the law enforcement community, and the many lives he touched throughout his service. The Deputy Tim Jordan Memorial Fund has been created to provide support to his family during this difficult time. Community members, businesses, and organizations who wish to honor Deputy Jordan's memory and service may make donations at any Citizens Bank and Trust Company location, which includes branches in Benton, Houghton, Oil City, Vivian, and two in Shreveport on North Market and Uri Drive. Uh, Sheriff Whittington said the outpouring of love and support for Deputy Jordan and his family has been overwhelming. This fund allows our community to come together to support the family of a deputy who gave his life in service to others. The Bossier Sheriff's Office extends its heartfelt gratitude to the community for its continued prayers, compassion, and support. For more information, contact the Bossier Sheriff's Office. So, yeah, we don't normally do this kind of thing, but hey, if you got a little bit you can give, every little bit would help the family, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So that is all that I have for tonight. I did see Val Baker. He put police jury in a question mark. I don't know what he was proposing. Maybe he wants us to jump the cat and put something out there that we've kind of gotten the hopper on the police jury early. Maybe that's what that's about, but can't go there quite yet,
Not
Val
yet.
Baker.
Got to do our
Not
homework.
yet.
Yeah.
Got to do our homework.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody that did watch tonight. We did announce it. I mean, I put a post up the other day that we're going to do tonight, but I didn't put up a little show deal till right before. I appreciate everybody being patient. I realize the video is probably a little bit jerky rather than what y'all are used to. Hopefully, the audio came through fine. We're trying out new software, all that kind of good stuff, blah, blah, blah. Appreciate everybody watching. And Mr. Lowrie, I appreciate you as we have now hit show 287 of Bossier Watch. And like we always say, over 300 with everything else we've done.
Yeah, over 300. And hey, you know what? I like this Thursday nights. That enables me to watch The Curse of Oak Island on Tuesday nights. I love it. It's not why we changed, but I'm now get to go back and watch it. I
See
love
there?
it.
That's just an added benefit we didn't even consider. Little lanyard for Thursday nights. You're able to watch Oak Alley on Tuesday night. So yeah, as we said last week, we're going to probably shift them to Thursday night. And so we'll put out some notices and all that, and maybe let everybody know. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We've had, I don't know, over 50 people watching, so that's actually pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, sir, for all the work, and glad you're keeping us on the edge of technology. Couldn't do it without you, no doubt about it. And hey, we'll see you guys next Thursday. Like Rex said, thanks for being here, and good night, everyone.